Yep, yep. Hey, do you ever sing along but not say it out loud when they say that bop bop yada?
Every time. I do a little silent like drum, whatever thing on my desk here with my two pointer fingers.
It's funny. I posted that old podcast with Zach Showalter the other day.
Mm-hmm.
The old Badger basketball player that played in the Final Four, and the next year he decided he wanted to do Ironman.
Yeah.
And I just went back to listen to it a little bit, to make sure, just to see how it felt. And the music's different on that one.
Yeah, we got a lot of hate mail.
I know.
Like a lot of hate mail. We tried to change up. People are I'm telling you, it's like if you drink the same cup of coffee every day, the same brand, the same flavor, it's the same temp. You go downstairs, you don't have to think about it. You just take a sip, and it's the perfect start to your day.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear the same thing, you hear the tune that rolls in and gets the podcast right. And once it changes, it kind of feels like something's been stolen from you.
And you know what? It is. And I just remembered, because we were just talking about this before the cast, what we're going to talk about today. But the name of that song that we use is called 3, 2, Fun, Go.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's pretty appropriate, maybe.
It's a very appropriate way to lead us into that one.
Yeah.
Well done. You haven't forgotten everything from your marketing and news days. It's a slight little teaser and a lead. Today is March 28th, the year. Yeah, it's still 2024. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is episode 758.
Yeah, it is. And
let's hop right into the topic today, unless you got anything else going.
No. I was going to say, speaking of hop, I just hopped in the lake. It's 37 degrees. But
well, not to go too deep on that, but it's kind of very similar to like the podcast team changing, because I can be having like a really good day, feeling like really solid about myself. And then, I get on and you talk about strolling into the lake with 20 to 30 degree ambient temp and 30 something 40 degree lake temp. And I feel like a complete pansy.
Well, no, I mean,
sitting here in my my hoodie and my sweats, staring at the sunshine, like, yeah, I got this day on lock. I got it. I'm tough, ready to rock and roll. And then, I get this visual of you strolling out of the lake, in a Speedo, with, your face frozen and your hair frozen, just rolling through like it's nothing.
No, I wear my basketball hoop shorts. But, on that topic, man, it's just fun. It's a fun thing to have in my day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like, I don't know if we can say positive addiction, but I think it's so hard for me to do it that it can't be really an addiction. You know what I mean? It's not like an easy out or an easy getaway. So it's a weird combination of that. And I think the fun part of it is it's had me thinking a lot more lately. It's just something that like you look forward to doing that's difficult, but how do we, and we were just talking about that before the cast about, how a lot of people take training really seriously, and how can we mix in, just youthful fun to life? Because I think when you're loose, or I should say when you're tense, everything becomes harder, and you lose kind of the enjoyment phase. At least I do. I don't know. There's a, like you were saying, there's a way to find a balance with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great topic for every week of the year, but also like this time, and actually mentioned it briefly in the weekly video that I did for the athletes this week about coming back from swim camp and reading through weekly summaries for the week and checking in on people, and it is like, especially in like especially if I found for like triathletes that like to race a lot and they put a lot of pressure on themselves. I've always found that the two hardest athletes to work with are usually from an expectation standpoint and a pressure standpoint. and kind of monitoring their levels of, where they are mentally and emotionally. Physically, it's always pretty easy, but like mentally, emotionally, it's kind of hard. Or it's always the two ends of the spectrum. It's the athletes who race a ton all the time. There's always something. They're always wanting to do well. But then it's also the other end of the spectrum, where athletes who only race once a year or maybe twice. They got so much wrapped up in this one day that they feel like everything has to go perfect because they don't have any other measuring sticks, right? You got workouts and you got tests or whatever it is. But if you only race once or twice a year, then a lot of times it feels like a lot of pressure, right? To do that. And so it's hard to do that. And this time of year, especially, like, had a lot of athletes that, did late season. And this is, conversation you and I have all the time with athletes who finish off a year. You're doing, in my opinion, if you do anything from September to December, Q4 of the year, that's end of year. Or you got October races, tons of 70.3 still in October. You got fulls in November. You got 70.3s in December. And then they're in this kind of like training high, right? It's a perfect time of year to train. You made it through summer. The best time of year to train for a lot of people is the fall. You're feeling good. You've got a whole year of fitness underneath your belt. You got races around the corner. It's kind of the peak of the triathlon season. Kona and Nice and everything's going on. You're just feeling it. And then, of course, when you're feeling it, what do you want to do? Register for next year. And a lot of times athletes pull in like that early season race. Oh, yeah, I think Texas Oceanside, Ironman Texas, raise his hand, guilty. And then you think about, like, there's no break. Yeah, you got November, December, and we just December rules. You got holidays, but that's not a long time. And so I often find that, and I'm seeing athletes that are, have very high expectations, who want to do well, love being structured, not just structure. I'm not talking about telling, it's like, like I'll use you an example. It's not like me telling you to swim on a, I know I need to swim on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, sometimes Sunday. I know I need to bike Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, sometimes again on Friday. I know I need to run these days. To me, that's not structure. That's just an outline to me, that's routine, right? So you have people who love routine, then you have people who love like the next level of structure. So it's, what is exactly that I'm doing in this swim? You got two different athletes, and you got the athlete who, you break down a swim and it's got, 7 different parts, and they're all very specific, not just specific parts, but also in the pre-activity comments, like, here's the intention of the day. Here's what I would use. Here's what paddle. I mean, down to the very detail. And if there's like a misplaced comma in the workout, they want to bring it up. Hey, I'm pretty sure you're not telling me to swim this. I'm pretty sure it's this. I just wanted clarification. So the whole thing could be perfectly structured and scripted, but there's one thing that, again, common sense would tell you to do this and not this. But they want it. They want to make sure they are hitting the intention perfectly. So to me, that's a huge difference in approach, right? I love my routine, I like the accountability. And the other ones, I like structure, and I like things to be overly specific, and I like to make sure that I'm doing things perfectly. Well, that athlete also is the one that's most likely to, one, need flexibility and creativity, which also, that's too, is like, it's the hardest to get them to do, but they're the ones that need it the most. Because in order to tell them to let loose and relax there was an athlete earlier this year that I started working with for the first time, and he's just very, like most triathletes, very black and white. There is no gray. What do you mean I can stop a little bit short? What do you mean it doesn't have to be exact? You gotta listen to your body. And he was like, he legit said, I don't know what you mean. I was like, I get that, right? Totally get that. But that's why you have to learn it and encourage it. And also, this same athlete, I put them through the run program. So it was very, 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 very structured. Very structured. Very, very down to the minute, down to the pace range. Had to hit it. And I could tell towards the end that he was like, not ready to rebel, but I could tell his dedication and commitment to the structure was waning. And when that happens, you feel like you're not doing it well, and you feel like you're failing, or you go way off the reservation, like, kind of people always joke like the preacher's daughter, or the son, like, when they get to college and they leave, they just kind of like overly rebel because they've been so sheltered their whole life, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go like not flexible, but I changed the whole schedule up and went to like a little bit less training, way more flexibility. And he was like, dude, I just kind of said, I think he seemed, a lot happier. He's like, man, it was fun while it lasted, but now this is perfect. And so, you had talked about before we went live is the need for frequent opportunities, either to be creative and be flexible or to encourage the athletes to do that. And because, again, I think usually most athletes wait too long to do it. They don't give themselves, because no athlete needs the permission to do it. They like to ask. They don't need the permission. At least from us, they don't. It's giving themselves their permission to go off script, to be flexible. And a lot of times, like everything in life, right? Most people like to hold things in for as long as possible, whether it's thoughts, feelings, resentments, trauma, hardship, stress, until we totally boil over and it comes crashing down, right? And then you're done, right? Instead of just talking about it every day and reaching out and asking for help, we like to wait till it's going to just overflow and come to a head. And that's the same thing with training, because they don't just rebel for a day, they get disinterested for a month. And so I think it's always a great topic. And I know we've talked about it before, probably 5 or 6 times on the podcast, but it's the, in a sport that's I think has been made, right, with the amount of data collection and the amount of software that's out there now, it's heightened, right? It's like giving crack to an addict, right? Triathletes are already black and white enough. They're already type A enough. They're already, crave routine instruction. This and the more data and the more software and the more metrics, it's like throwing gas. They start to create, like how you talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it could be a positive addiction, but it's an addiction. And it 100% is, because it's also an attachment to a value they give themselves of if they did a good job today or not. And to me, that just removes the overall intent, which you talk about a ton, is like, did it, and I'll never forget it. It's like, I think on one of the first 20 episodes we did, right? And you said, this run or ride or this workout should make you feel better, not worse. And to me, that's a physical thing, but it's also hugely important from a mental and emotional standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you talked about this idea of going off script, and I think with somebody like me, I'm at my best, I think, when I have an outline, or what I guess you said, a routine, or just sort of an outline. I think about guys like Will Ferrell or Dave Chappelle or whatever, and they're talking about either in movies or scripts. A lot of times they don't have lines. They have situations that are presented, and they let them kind of go off script because they want them to freestyle, because those guys are so creative that they would write better lines than the writers a lot of times. So when we see those movies, Will Ferrell is making that shit up as he goes in the scene. And probably not all the time, but they have obviously the outline. And that's kind of how I look at training a lot is, have athletes that will struggle with kind of reining it in or something like that. And they want to push for a little bit more. And I always say, that's okay. I think we all have that feeling. There's a lot of times that I'm feeling good and I just want to go more, but that's when you should do it. I feel like is like when you're really feeling good, when you feel good and you can go a little bit more and do some, kind of push it a little bit harder than you normally might based on the actual workout that's in there. I mean, every workout isn't going to be perfectly prescribed, but I also think you have to be aware that, being in touch with your body, that's all I've ever tried to do. So I think it does help me when I do have some structure, but I will just knock it back if I don't know. If I know I'm off, something's going weird and I don't want to dig a hole, I'll just stop, or I'll, stop early or whatever. But sometimes if I feel good and I want to take it a little bit harder, I'll do it because I know I can. But for me, it's all about, I mean, especially this time of year, dude, I mean, I want to stay in the game, so it's not, if I'm not following an exact structural training plan right now all the time, that doesn't matter at all to me. It's just like, I got to be moving. I got to be having fun,
To me, and I think this cannot be overstated, is that while you say you're not on a plan, you are.
Oh yeah.
Because your plan is to, and it might sound like, it might sound ridiculous to say, but your plan to not have a plan is a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the primary thing is it's a successful plan, right? And you and I see this weekly with older athletes we work with, older as in like we've worked with them for years and years, with newer athletes, that the ability to be objective in what is right for you and what is doable, not that you want, not that you hope, not that seems like it'll get you to qualify for the World Championships in a year, but what is reasonable. No matter what, again, your hopes and dreams and expectations are, the best plan for you is the most reasonable plan. And you know that about yourself, is if I try to structure myself too much, then I know that I'm going to rebel isn't the right word. I'm just going to fuck it. Whatever. My level of creativity will be just to do nothing versus to do something, right? Most people swing from like the two ends of the pendulum, right? It's never kind of in the middle. And so you do have a plan, and it's allowing you to be successful versus to do nothing. And I think a lot of athletes get caught in this, and especially athletes that get caught up, buying books and buying training plans, because everyone overbuys. Mm-hmm. I can go give you, I can go give Timmy Triathlete $75. And if I give him $75 to buy a training plan, he's always going to buy the highest volume in the longest weeks.
Oh yeah.
Always. Never going to buy the lowest volume, lowest weeks. Not going to happen. That's not how most triathletes' brains are wired. And I even do this, like to an extent with myself. If I'm writing out my training plan, I've got, it's been really hard for me this season of life versus the previous season of life. Like, and I think I even talked this over the weekend with somebody in Texas about how, back when, we were in the hub, and I was I was in probably the best shape I've ever been in my entire life. It was during the pandemic. Everything was predictable. No one was traveling. No one was really doing much. There wasn't any races. There weren't any after school sports. There wasn't this. I could just come in the hub, see you, do the podcast, work, train as much as I needed to. Nothing else mattered. And now, if I look at like my life and how busy it's become, and I got Texas, I'm traveling again this week. Hayden's bigger, and it's got more. We're out of town for hockey every other weekend. It's just it's unpredictable. So for a guy like me that likes to, and I even did this. Like I was, all right, your next few weeks is, we're in the final crunch. I can't work off like just a standard outline because my life isn't standard. And I just kind of said, I haven't, I got frustrated because I wrote it out and I was like, this isn't even doable. I was like, this isn't even doable. Yes, like to do this for like the next 3 weeks, after this week and then taper for week, but it's not doable. And it might be doable, but it's not doable in this order, in this predictive order. And because I'm the same, I'm an addict. It's either all in or all out. I'm not great at happy mediums. And so I know that about myself. And so if I feel like there is no like 100% get it done, I'm more likely to do 100% nothing because I'm an all in. It's who I am, for better or for worse. And so this week I had like an outline. Then I got back from Texas and I was like, you know what? We have some friends visiting, and I was like, I'm going to do what I can each day and just get what I can get done and makes me feels right. So I did that. I got a biking run done Tuesday, went out the door yesterday. Beautiful day, beautiful morning, running with Mark. Had myself scheduled for an hour, but it was awesome. and I had like some threshold I planned in there, but we ended up running for an hour and 10 minutes. I did a little bit of tempo on the back end. That was it. I still got the same benefit. It was just different, and I got it done. Gonna swim today, but I found without trying to, I'm almost like 90% on plan for the week by just going with more of the flow instead of trying to force things. And that to me is always when I'm at my best too, is like, I think, all right, what's, and as a coach, I can do that. And what feels best? And you do the same thing, right? What feels best to me today? Or what doesn't feel best for me today? And I think that's that ownership and that responsibility that we should encourage all athletes to have is, we say this plenty. I've said it a million times to athletes. Like if you wake up on a Tuesday and you've got an easy ride, and on Thursday you've got a hard one, you wake up and you feel like, the next, Pogacha, and you can just lay it down, then do your hard workout. Like if you feel it, to me, that's creativity. And because there is, and this might be a news flash, and it's probably isn't, but the doing every workout perfectly versus veering off a little bit, one, it's never going to make a difference in your race day. Two, you're never going to know, ever. You're not going to go back and look, dude, Coach Mike, I was a few minutes short of my PR today, and you remember back in November,
yeah,
you gave me this 5 by 3 minute threshold set on the bike, and I couldn't mentally do it that day, so I did 15 by 1 minute. I still got 15 minutes in. I think that's what fucked me up today.
That was it.
I fell short. I know you told me to run for an hour and a half at zone 2, back in December too. I remember that, Dave, specifically. You asked me to do 90-minute zone 2. And I got out there, I was running with a buddy, and it was beautiful outside, and I just had a negative split. It came back it went a little bit harder. I think that got me today. No one's ever said that. It's because it's irrelevant. It is irrelevant. Yes, intensity distribution and intervals, how you structure those are important. But to me, it goes like we talked about Tuesday, right? When you think about the hierarchy of needs from a coach and how you pick apart the layers of the onion for an athlete, it's how do we take off tens of minutes? How do we take off minutes? How do we take off seconds? And doing every single set perfectly, day in and day out, falls under the seconds. What falls under taking things off the tens of minutes, right? And this is the message we send to all of our coaches. Getting an athlete to be consistent gets them 80 to 85 to some athletes 90% of the way home to their best day.
Mm-hmm.
Getting and that just doesn't mean giving them the right load, right? It also means making sure they know that doing whatever they need to do to be consistent is the most encouraged thing possible. So I could lay out my week for you Monday through Sunday, exactly how I want it to go. That's option A, plan A, 1. The next best option is to rearrange the week totally to where no workout is done at all, period, on the right days, but they're all completed. To the athlete, it looks like a mess. It's all right to flip these days. It's all right to do this. As long as you're not doing 3 hard runs back to back, which you won't give in a week anyway. That's the second best option. And that's an athlete owned option. I made the moves. I switched. I saw, a green light, and I took it. I saw an opportunity and I took it. I didn't have it one day, so I took it off. Perfect. 100. Because just like we can't predict what you can do each day, the athlete as a person, as a human, can't predict what their week will look like. And some athletes are fantastic with that. They'll move things around, they'll adjust, because they know the goal is the consistency, the goal is the volume. But it also allows them to live a little bit. And yeah, sometimes you got to just remind them that there are guardrails. Like, you're a guardrail guy. Give me guardrails. Don't drive me around and tell me where to go and make me do things. Guardrails, I can get whatever car I want to be in. I can swerve a little bit. I can go fast. I can slow down. I can put it on cruise control, whatever. Just be headed in the right direction. And I think athletes really, overcomplicate the size of the lane that we have these guardrails in. It's not a sidewalk or a really skinny bike path, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 3 lanes wide.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we're heading in the right direction, right, at a decent pace, and you're having fun, it's always going to go better. And so again, like then that's another level of flexibility and creativity, right? You have to be creative. You and I talked about it right before we went live, is how, you it's hard to be both creative and structured at the same time, right? So some days you just have to kind of flip that switch and be that. You can't be totally creative 100% of the time, because then, you kind of let your mind go, and you got, 85 different projects you want to do, and then you realize you got nothing done that day. Same thing with working out, right? So you gotta have some structure, but you also have to weave in that creativity piece, and that's something that you've always been really, really good at.
Yeah, I like how you said guardrails, because I do have a plan. Always have a plan kind of in my, plan in my training peaks. And it's just there, like I look at it, and that's why I'm such a big integrity of the workout type of person, and integrity of the progression. And that back to staying in the ballpark, I like to know what's there, and I'm looking at things, and I'm like, okay, a lot of times I think back to when we first started together, and I had no idea. This was like, Ironman says anything is possible, but I think a lot of people have a hard time grasping that when they just get into it. I mean, that seems impossible, right? First time you're doing it, you're like, what the hell am I even thinking about? And we, started together, and we were fortunate. I was fortunate enough to have some other guys training for the same race, and we were always doing stuff. A few of them had already done it. And I remember going through that summer thinking at certain places, we would do certain things. Like we didn't do a lot of ton of brick work, for example. That's always one that kind of hangs people up, I think. But I did one after, I don't know, maybe like a 60-mile ride or whatever. And I ran maybe 4 miles or something like that. And I just remember this little story. One of the guys was like, I said, I felt great, man. I think I got this. That's just like, and he goes, you have no idea. You have no idea. After you do 100 miles, your legs are going to be, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm starting to feel like I understand what's going on here. And so I do think it's a lot of finding your own belief system in there and different things. There were certain things along the way, like we did Muncie that summer, the 70.3. That was my first one. And I was always really, really worried about the swim at Wisconsin my first time. It just seemed so, I was not a good swimmer. I didn't really, we worked hard at it and everything, but it seemed to me like the biggest mystery. I felt like I could pull the bike off and then somehow get done on the run, but the swim was always scary. And that day in Muncie, when I got done with the swim there, because that was my first really long competitive swim. I had done an Olympic, but when I got done, I hit the shore that day, and I was like, I know I could have done it today. And that was, when was that, June or something? June or July? So I'm like, okay, now I know in my mind that I can pull this off. But I think what I'm saying is sometimes I get, like you and I, and as coaches, have been through it so much that we can tell, and I believe in athletes, I believe in anybody that we're working together with, as long as I'm seeing certain signs along the way. But I think it's hard to articulate that to somebody. It's like, trust me, you can do this. Just keep your head in the game and keep working at getting a little bit better and doing things and staying around the plan here, and we can pull this off. It's not like, I just think that there's so much overreaction to certain days and one workout here and there or whatever. And I just know personally that some days I just got nothing. Even within a month of the race, and I'll go out and do a workout and be like, who the hell do I think I am going to be going out and do a full Ironman? I couldn't even run 30 minutes today. Yeah. But it's those sort of psychological beatdowns that really get in our heads, and it's just a really interesting process. I think this whole Ironman thing, because the ebbs and flows of it are just so. One day you think you're going to go out and just hammer it, and the next day you can't even think you're going to finish. So I think it's just really about trusting the process and really keeping your head straight about and understanding that once you get there, and I talk about race energy a lot. Once you get on site, the mystery kind of goes away a little bit for me, and their energy is there. And now it's just about being able to stay within yourself and channel energy in the right way. And that there's something about race day and the environment that, we've seen it over and over and over. People that may have had no business finishing that day, but just have a decent race, or a good race. And I think it is a lot about being relaxed and flowing and learning how to have fun with it, because it really is fun. And it's not like you're doing a sprint for 140 miles. You just kind of go out there doing your shit. It's just like a day of different stuff, just get through a day.
And I think there's a lot to be said for forcing yourself to learn things as you go. I think I talked about a few weeks ago, trying not to be a helicopter parent and trying not to be, for coaching, trying not to be a dictator. Everyone hates a fucking micromanager. No one likes a micromanager. A lot of people think they like to be micromanaged until they totally rebel. No. So, and I do, a lot of coaches love to micromanage. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? This wasn't long enough. Did you even do the intervals today? Well, what's wrong there? Things can be exploratory, right? Figure things out. In the same way, like, for example, like athletes to learn and educate them. You can't fully educate someone as an athlete, right? Because I ultimately think that is our job as a coach, is to educate and inform and teach our athletes about training and about flow and about progression and why things should be a certain way. And I had an athlete over the weekend who did their long stuff. Then on Monday, I looked in and they had moved their Tuesday, which is a hard ride, over to Monday. So a hard ride that they needed an easier day on Monday. Totally should have been not swapped. And before I even opened it, I knew what the comment was going to be. And they're like, hey, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And I said, well, it wasn't ideal for you to move it over to Monday. It's not, you still had good power, right? So you want to give an affirmation, a positive, and your intention was good, right? Getting it done, and your power was still good, but it's not surprising that you didn't feel great because of Saturday and Sunday. And they said, well, I usually, the week starts to get to me on Wednesday and Thursday, from just like a life standpoint. And I feel like I'd be better able to generate power on a Monday. Totally reasonable thought process, right? Like, it wasn't like, I just wanted to go hard today. It was, the athlete was thinking on their own as an athlete, making what they felt like was best decision for that day, right? Which is what every coach wants. Best decision for that day. That's all we can do, and then move on. Was it the wrong decision? No. Was it the right decision? No. It can be neither. And it can be a wash. Still got the workout in, but we also learned, okay, yes, I'm usually tired during the week. That wasn't necessarily the best move. And now I know why it wasn't the best move. So now I just kind of think about, which one's worse, coming off a weekend of harder long workouts and doing another hard workout on Monday, or seeing how the week goes and giving my body more rest, even though my brain might not be as rested during the week because of life. And there's only one person that can know that. That's the athlete. So when you do things like that, you have an experience now, 3 or 4 weeks from now, when they get the same inkling, same hankering to move something. I just had a bit longer. Okay, I want to move. Remember that time I made that switch and it didn't make sense? Let me look at my week and see what work's going to look like. And it looks pretty clear. I think I should be all right. Leaves it. Or, I got that presentation's due to my boss, and I just don't think that's going to work out very well. Neither one of them, right? neither one of them might go perfect, but I have the highest likelihood of getting the best workout done if I do it today instead of Thursday. That's the most productive thought process the athlete can have no matter what. Is again, a thought process, not a unconscious, ego-filled, impulsive decision just to do it. It's a thought process. Well, it kind of made sense to me. Okay, tell me a little bit more about that. Why did that make sense to you? Because again, you don't ask those questions to make them feel bad. You want to hear what led you to think this was the best idea. And I'm not telling you it wasn't. I just want to know if you even thought about it or just did it. Because a lot of times it's just like, doing something for your kids that they can do, but it might take longer, but you can do it quicker. And all you're doing is you're not teaching anyone anything. You're just teaching that you'll do it for them. And again, when it comes to educating athletes and teaching athletes how to be their own athlete and be their own athlete on race day, you can't micromanage and you can't hold their hand. Like no athlete, if you really want to get the best out of yourselves, needs to be micromanaged, have their hand held. And as a coach, like when you push away an athlete who wants to get their hand held and wants to be, spoon fed and every question answered without them having to do the thought process, or even like, using a search thing like Google or doing this, I'm like, no. And it's not because I don't want to do it. It's also one, not my job, but two, I'm just enabling you to be totally inept on race day. Because you can't shoot me a text. You can't call me up on the phone. You can't ask me in person. You can't even get in touch with me. It's you in between the ears. And if you got nothing to go on, no ability to be creative, no nothing, you got nothing. So you start that with training. You start that with being creative and trying to understand as your own person. Because a lot of times I think we forget the overlap in the human that we are and the athlete that we're trying to become. And a lot of times the answer needs to be, right, is what's the decision that the athlete in me can make today that can also set up the human I am today for a better day today, that more so than a worse day tomorrow. The athlete in me wants to drive myself from the ground with the super hard bike ride. But the human in me knows that I need a little bit of rest and I'm already too stressed today, understands, and they need a little bit of flexibility. They need more recovery. They need to feel better when they get done, not worse. That's two different people. And I think that's also really hard for athletes that we're also humans, right? We're people first. To find out and understand what is that, right? But a lot of times, and we see this too, the closer you get to race day, I really just need to see if I could do the distance. Okay, fine. As long as it's like the swim, and it's not like, not going out running a marathon. Yeah, that's athlete only. Your total disregard for the person. And I think it's a delicate balance, and I think you have to massage both, but also respect both and what those needs are. And a lot of times, those needs are different. The goal, the race, the expectation versus the person who's got to go home and still fix dinner and still take care of the kids and still, have responsibilities for they go to bed at night and then get up early to get a workout done. It's like two different people. And I think that like when you weave in and you teach and you encourage and you foster a culture within your team and your relationship with your athlete that is flexibility, autonomy, it should be encouraged. And it's not like, well, what are you having a coach for? Like you teach, the coach is not there to hold your hand or spoon feed you. The coach is to get you in the right direction and make sure you're doing things the right way, hold you back, push you forward, remove things, make you take a day off when you have to. It's not to give you total free reign. It's not like we're the chaperone. Okay? We're the chaperone. Have a good time. You need to be responsible. If you need me, I'm here. I can get you where you need to go. Hold my sign up. Here's my sign. We're all marching down the street. We're all going to see, the monuments in Washington, D.C. So I got my sign up overhead, Chattanooga 70.3 group right here. I'm the chaperone. I got that, and I got my bright umbrella. Make sure you can't lose me. Here's what we need to be accomplished. Here's the rules for the day. Just don't be an idiot. If you need something, here's my cell. I'm going to keep checking in on you. It's not total. All right, take 5 steps this way, group. All right, now we're going to take 5 steps this way. Now we're going to pause and stop in front of the White House for 1 minute, 37 seconds. And then Mike gets to take his picture for 17 seconds. It's not like that. You need a chaperone. You don't need a dictator. You don't need a micromanager. You need that. Just like you don't need to leave your, irresponsible high school kid at home for the weekend and tell him, okay, no parties. They're going to have a party. They're 100% going to have a party. What you say is, all right, we're gone till Monday. You can have friends over. Just don't be an idiot. And if you are an idiot, we'll talk about it when you get back and you won't ever do it again. That's what you need, right? Because if you tell them don't have a party, what they hear is, let me see if I can have a party, and you not know. That's why, like athletes, we say you're not able to do that. What do you see? You see, a 3-hour run. They just had to do this, and then they delete it and try to hide it from you. If you ever try to hide anything from you, then you got a bad relationship.
Mm. Yeah, let me go back to. I got a thing. I don't know if I've ran it by you, but I have a thing called the soup can analogy. Have I ever talked to you about that?
I think so. But we're not
yeah, I probably brought it up, but I don't know if you remember that Photoshop picture I made of me in the jazzercise class holding soup cans. But
I do. Please tell me that's going to be the photo caption for today's podcast.
Boy, if I can find it, maybe we can do it.
You got to.
But my thought on that is, like, for example, the story is the other day I jumped on the trainer, and I usually just obviously go by effort, but on my watch it popped up a big gear workout. Do you want to do this workout? I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I realized I didn't have very good tension on the trainer, but I also didn't feel like hammering a big gear workout, even though I love them. I just wasn't in the mood. So I went through it, but I didn't have the appropriate tension. You know what I mean? So I put it on a hard gear, and I just forced myself to go slow. And you know what? It's not easy. The soup can part is like, if you have 2 soup cans in your hands and you're doing curls with them, it's real easy, right? But you can kind of make it feel hard if you try. You know what I'm saying? Or lighter weight. If you just really focus on going super slow and then acting like it's heavy. So that's kind of like my baseline for training a lot of times. So that's the integrity of the workout again, right? But that doesn't mean it's a bad workout. If you can go, 45 RPMs with a fairly easy big gear, try that. You can really work on your form. It's kind of like going slow, like in the drumming I always talk about. It's just not easy to do. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know what this is doing necessarily, if it's making me better, but it feels like it's forcing me to really have some discipline and work on form and all these other things. And I just think you can do that across the board, especially if you're like, the reason I brought it up, because the guy you're saying that did the Monday hard bike, you can do that, but you don't have to, just kill yourself. You can kind of just still do the workout, but like make it easier in a hard in an easy way, if that makes any sense. But I think there's a lot of opportunities to do that. Whether it's you got a hill repeat where you're supposed to be going up hard, don't go up as hard, just kind of just find a good, comfortable zone, but really be form focused. And, sometimes that's a good thing to, I think, slow you down and really focus on your form, no matter what the workouts are. It does in the pool, a hard 50 can be, like we were saying, maybe just be longer and just really kind of, like you said the other day, slow down your swim stroke and see how that feels. It doesn't have to always be like push your ass over the top and drain every ounce of energy you have. So that, like, those are ways that I keep things fun. For me, that's fun, because I don't feel at the mercy always of the dredge of a difficult workout. You know, some days I'll feel like I'm going to go, and usually it kind of emerges on its own throughout the season. Then then I get that big work and I'm ready to go and go get it. But some days I'm not, but it still makes it more fun if I can go through the workout, even though I'm not giving it everything out and burying myself. So, and that's why I like walking now, is because it usually sparks something else. It's like, I don't feel like running for sure right now, but maybe I'll just get on there and walk outside for a while and see how I feel after 30 minutes or something like that. And then a lot of times I kind of sort of transition into a little run out of it. But to me, that's more fun than facing like, God, I don't want to do this right now.
And I think when you know that, right? Because there are some days where people, I think, crave structure, but also some days where people crave creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it goes both ways. Like if you're not feeling a workout and you know you're going to make a bad decision, you need structure to keep you reined in.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the same thing can happen if you aren't feeling it, and an hour or hour and 30 seems like too much and too daunting, and that's a lot of pressure. Then you need flexibility. And 30 minutes is okay. Right? That's it. You know, and I think every athlete knows that each and every day what they need. Then it might differ from morning to evening. Right? Their morning session and what they need in the afternoon might be totally different. And I love what you said about, you know, walking is getting you moving, because you know it's kind of like the age-old debate: is it mood before movement or movement before mood?
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, movement. You know, you got to be in a good mood to want to go move, or is it your movement makes you in a better mood?
I know.
And
that's
you know,
huge, man.
It is. It's tricky, but I also think it's different, right? It changes all the time. Just like, you know, what's going to get you going from morning to evening, but also like when we hear creativity. You know, if I said to you, all right, you know, if you're coaching me, Mike, and you're like, all right, man, go run 50 minutes on the treadmill, and you know, or run 50 minutes and keep it on flat surface. That's the intent for the day. Well, it's raining outside, it's storming, it's late, and I can only get it inside. So I hop on the treadmill and I do 15 minutes, but running flat on the treadmill makes time seem like it's standing still. It's like watching water boil and paint dry. Couldn't seem like it's taking any longer. And so instead, I get on the treadmill and I do 5 minutes flat and then 5 minutes at 4%. Break it up in fives. Cycle through that 5 times, get my 50 minutes, done. First things first. One, I got it done. First and foremost. The only thing that mattered, right? But was I creative and flexible? Yes, I was. Oh, well, that's not that. There is no definition, right? We're not saying be rebellious and be responsible. We're saying be creative and be flexible, because what I would have done is did what I needed to do to be able to complete it that day and give me the best, or give me at least the best shot of making it to 30 minutes, right? Instead of thinking, I got to go flat. I know I'm going to hate it, but I got to do it anyway. There's only so many times we can do that. There's only so many. There's only so many. There's a guy I'm coaching this dude in Ironman in Texas who's just really, really struggling with his bike fit. I mean, it's just super uncomfortable. He's having a hard time trying to work through it, trying to get some, you know, different opinions. And so doing 3 to 4 rides a week, he's hating it. It's dreading him. It's making him feel really negative and down about his cycling, even though he's got, you know, really solid power. So we've gone from, we're right now only riding twice a week, which is not the best, but it's the best for him right now. It's by being flexible. So now we're biking on a different day of the week. We're changing things up on the weekend. We're trying to give himself the best shot. Again, not to just get in good fit shape and ready for an Ironman, but also leave him feeling at least optimistic and encouraged with what he's done. And again, it just goes back to creativity. And a lot of athletes, again, like myself, can really attach ourselves to that pendulum of all or nothing, completion or not starting, green or red in Training Peaks, right? I'll start again next Monday. My week's not perfect. Who cares? It's a really, really hard thing, I think, for a lot of athletes to, you know, well, my week doesn't look pretty. Can you move this to here so it'll upload and it'll be green? Whatever. Sure. Right. But again, it's like going back to my 15-minute run thing. I was creative. I did what was best for me not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally, because a lot of times doing what's best for you mentally and emotionally allows you to get through the amount of time, the duration, the intensity, and the intent of the workout that you need to be done physically. And I think that separation and understanding, like a lot of times it's that human piece is the chin up and the athlete piece is the chin down. And a lot of times they fight. One wants something, one wants the other. You know, the athlete wants to work out, knows it needs to work out, wants to work out. The human, I'm done for the day. I got nothing. Who do you listen to, and what do you kind of honor? And sometimes there's a happy medium, right? And a lot of times, for me, the answer is usually getting out the door to honor the human. I know I'm going to feel better to move today. I'm going to be a better husband, be a better father, and be a better coach, be a better friend. It's going to help make me feel better, and it'll make me raise the likelihood of doing better again tomorrow. Or I can get on the bike and smash myself and feel like crap and be run down and then not want to get, and then, eat 6 slices of pizza, 2 Cokes, and a cookie. It's a fine line. Yeah, but I think it's one of the hardest, it's the hardest relationship to manage within the individual and athlete is that human versus athlete, the person versus athlete, and who to listen to. But a lot of times there's a way to listen and respect both. And I think that's where the creativity comes in, right? Is like as you were talking, I was looking back at I'm not a big training stress score guy, but I was looking back on what my training stress would have been for my workout that I had threshold intervals. That was it for an hour that I was supposed to do yesterday morning. I think it was like 72. And instead, I went and ran with a buddy. Ran outside, beautiful day, ran longer, didn't do threshold, but then did about 20, 25 minutes of tempo. I think it ended up being like 80 versus 72, negligible, nothing. It's like a 6-degree heat change. It's nothing. So I got the work in, the athlete needed even a little bit more. I got the time in, I had fun with it. I enjoyed doing it. And I wasn't so worried about when I got done, it's going to look yellow and orange, not green. No, I did 110. I feel like I have to explain myself why I went longer. A lot of times you don't need to explain. This is what was best for me today. Now, if it's, hey, here go run for an hour and you go run for 4, I'm gonna need some explaining. I'm gonna need an answer, right?
Yeah.
But things like marginal, plus or minus, yeah. Athletes, you don't need to over athlete explain that to us. Yeah, I just needed to go. Or another athlete explain is I did the whole workout, but my watch didn't pick up my 200-meter kick.
Yeah.
Hashtag no one cares. No one cares except for you. No one's gonna look back. No coach will be like, did you do you're short 200 today. What's up?
Yeah.
Not feeling it? Can't do it? Not engaged anymore? We got Ironman California in October, right around the corner. No,
yeah, it's not going away.
It's not going away. Yeah, there's I'm gonna make it like an athlete explain list, things they like to athlete explain to you. And like, no, it's fine. It is fine. And in me not caring about it should give you the permission to also realize it's not a big deal, and it's not. Here's another athlete explain, and I know I'm giving athletes a hard time. Here's a screenshot of my Garmin Connect, just so you know that I did it. I'm like, this isn't a dictatorship. Like, you're not. This isn't a cult. Just tell me you did it. Just write in there, did it. And even if you didn't, I'm not gonna. You're not gonna be called to the principal's office. That's another one of my favorites. Here's a screenshot of my thing. Garmin hasn't updated yet. I know it's been a minute and a half, but I just want to let you know that it's done.
Mm-hmm. And just quickly, the above the chin, below the chin, the athlete, human analogy, the move before mood, that kind of thing. I mean, just the way I look at that is, and it sounds like, you're talking about it a little bit with that run, is I kind of should I be tired? Did I have a huge weekend? Is it my body or is it my mind? And like some days I know there's no way in hell that I shouldn't be able to go do, whatever, a 40-minute run today.
Right.
I know that. There's not like my body shouldn't be, rebelling against what I did the last 3 or 4 days. So that's when I just try to flip that switch a little bit somehow, some way. And I'm like, all right, I got to force this because I know it's my brain and it'll be good for me. But if I feel, your body is completely wore down and you're trying to drive it from that angle, that's tricky. But, some days I can just be like, I don't feel like this. I know it's my brain, and I'll lay down for like 2 or 3 minutes and close my eyes, and it'll just come to me. And I'm like, all right, I got to get up and do it. And it's just something that simple that can shift my perspective and transition me into actually getting dressed and going out, and then everything's fine.
Again, be creative.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of like it reminds when you talk about like that, it reminds me of like I'm sure people still do this. Set your clocks 5 minutes forward.
Oh yeah.
So you always be on time. Yeah, it's 5 minutes forward. So you're like, but it's 5 minutes forward. I got plenty of time. So it's like we have these like tricks that we try to use to get us placed on time, but then other times we're like, we're not going to be late. It's 5 minutes ahead. We still got time to do this, and then you show up late. It's like I think we all have these like little tricks we have to get ourselves out the door to make ourselves be on time, and well, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Right, and you fall back on the problem that initiated the trick or the stuff like that. So I think, and every athlete's individual. We can wrap it up, but and I think that's the key is that one athlete's creativity is cutting their warm up down to 400 to 350 because that's as non-structured and as creative as they get. Another athlete's is I know I got an hour and 15 today, but I want to go run an hour and 40 on the trail and do whatever I want to. Or I don't want to do your intervals, but I want to do this. So everyone has their different level of creativity. We're not telling you to go rogue. We're just telling you to remember to have fun and remember to, instead of waking up and looking at your workout for the day and immediately feeling like it has to be done, wake up and ask yourself what you got today first. Who are you today first? Then you can decide what you have to give. And that, I think, sets yourself up for success a lot better than feeling like there's already these demands out there. Because I think it's hard, right, to understand that. I think people look at things backwards a lot and end up, kind of disrespecting their overall health and emotional and mental wellness with the daunting task of perfection each day.
Dude,
there's a lot of different ways to, nothing's perfect. There's a lot of different ways to get progress each day.
Yeah, I agree. And as coaches, we've seen it all the time. But in a nutshell, what we're talking about right here, I think can be the difference between a few greens and yellows and a whole week of red. You know what I'm saying?
You nailed it. I mean,
because it happens all the time. It's like, didn't feel like it. And then it's just like, darkness. It's like, where'd they go?
No, it's so true, man. I mean, it's not the same because it's not the same at all. But, being in recovery, I always kind of go back to, recovery days is, when most people relapse, they don't relapse for a day. You're sober for, it'd be like me if I was sober for, right now, a little over 10 years. And if I was going to relapse tomorrow, I highly doubt I would hop back on the sober train on Saturday. You just kind of like, because what happens is you wallow in that shame and disconnect that is what got you there in the first place. And so it's true. It's a fascinating, from a psychological standpoint, our resiliency of just picking back up the next day and getting started, or even just the same day. I see it's a ton too. Crappy workouts in the morning, amazing workouts in the evening. don't judge a day by the first workout, or don't decide the day was a success by a second bad workout. I mean, it's all psychology, and it's that's why it's I think that's why it's so complicated, because we all have our different levels and definitions of perfection and different levels of creativity, and that's ultimately why I think it's so important to encourage your athletes to own their own journey. And because that's the thing, is like when you talk about, when you stop, trying to compare yourself to everyone else and everyone else's training and everyone else's times, and everyone else is this, it's you lose it, and it's yours. I got an athlete, I know I'm trying to wrap up, but an athlete that was like, hey, I know you hate this when I compare myself to other people. I've got, these other people that I'm training with that aren't doing this and they're not doing that. And I feel like I'm falling behind, and I don't have any really reason to say that. I know you hate that, but can we have a check-in call and talk about my progress? I just said, sure, 100%, totally do that. But before we do that, I want you to write out in an email or whatever, all of the reasons that you see that you're not getting better according to you versus you. Not against your buddies, not against training partners, not against, the you of 5 years ago, or the you want in 5 years now, but within the last 6 weeks. You show me on paper where you feel like you have fallen short or you are not progressing. And you're only allowed to use your numbers, your data, your life in the last 6 weeks. That's your journey. And I think a lot of times we get so lost in whose journey it really is. It just kind of bleeds other people's agendas and social media and Strava and your training partners, and it bleeds into yours. And at some point you just look up and you think, you don't know where your journey begins, and the expectations and social media and other people's journeys ends. It's just there. And then you become, distant from it. You become disattached. You feel like it's impossible. And so it's yours. Make it your own, because I promise you, if you make it your own, you'll love it more.
Yeah, I agree.
I concur. All right, man. Who you, give me your final four before we exit.
Ooh.
Coming out of the weekend. You can make changes.
Well, are you guys who's in your bracket again?
We got to beat Creighton on Friday to have the opportunity to play Purdue on Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah, we got a tough draw. So to Purdue, they got to get past Gonzaga.
Yeah. I don't want to. Okay. My heart or my head. I think Purdue's on. I think Purdue's on it right now. I think UConn is unstoppable.
Won't disagree.
God, I like Houston too. I mean, I'm talking all one seeds here, right?
Yeah, I've got other my final four.
Marquette.
I got Iowa State upsetting UConn.
You're losing to Iowa State? Oh no, that's Illinois.
Yeah, I'm a total homer this year. I got Iowa State, Arizona, Houston, and Tennessee in my final four.
Okay. Who am I missing? Who's the other one seed?
I mean, you got Houston, you got North Carolina. They're a one seed.
Oh, yeah, I don't have them. Who are they playing?
North Carolina plays Alabama next.
And then
they'd play Arizona.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alabama's going to beat them all.
I wouldn't be shocked if they did either. I have them losing, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did.
Just because they were supposed to do it last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Got some talent.
Nate Oates, he's a Wisconsin guy.
Oh, that's right, he is.
So is the guy from Iowa State, I think. Hey, let's just face it, with some of the Wisconsin produces a lot of really good coaches.
And they do. They definitely do that.
Shaka Smart's from Wisconsin too.
Damn. Okay, there's the Belichick tree and the Nick Saban tree and the Wisconsin basketball tree.
I know. It's pretty nuts.
That is pretty nuts. Well, whoever team you're rooting for, enjoy the festivities this weekend.
I think Illinois is going to get there.
There you go. You got the Illinois. It'll be fun to watch regardless. Yeah, Tennessee's got a 9:00 start on Friday night.
9:00?
Yeah.
I think Illinois plays tonight at 9:20.
Yeah. I think that's the same slot.
And they play in. Wait a minute. I think it's in New York, so it's like a post 10:00 start in real time. What are they doing?
I don't know. It's all about I'm like, that's not even prime time, and nobody in the West Coast even watches basketball.
I know. That's why I can't give Arizona. They've had too many heartbreaks. They're gonna.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, that's it. They play Iowa State tonight.
Yeah,
that's gonna be a good game.
Well, yeah, right. I love how Illinois is playing, man.
Yeah. Well, whoever wins, enjoy. Have a good weekend. Race hard, race smart. Be creative. Be flexible. Let's see you Tuesday.
All right, buddy. See you, man.
See you, buddy.